Hello, I'm Bez, and I wanted to talk about how board game design is for everyone. Now, I've given a board game design 101 talk in the past. This is a little bit different. Now, what I wanted to say is basically, I'm going to introduce myself, I'm going to talk about what board game design is, I'm going to say why games are good, why board game design is a thing that you might want to do, and why it's got amazing potential. Now, just looking at my notes, I'm going to copy paste a few things in lieu of having slides. So, yeah. Now, the first thing I wanted to say is to talk about me. My first memory is of a Spectrum loading screen. Who here remembers the ZX Spectrum? That it goes... And so, yeah, having my siblings go up to it and make, see all these things, and I see we've got quite a few people. Yeah, I'm sorry for the noise, everyone. Now, I wanted to carry on doing things. I love games. I started drawing maps of side-scrollers. I programmed things on the TI-83, the graphics calculator, and the BBC, which was a computer that was sent into different schools. I made a bunch of card games with traditional playing cards just because I was told that this was a good thing to do if you ever wanted to work in the video game industry. I always saw myself as someone working in the video game industry. Now, I studied computer games design technology. I didn't actually finish the course because it turned into programming, and I realized that I hate programming. It literally makes me almost, I'm not going to, it puts me into a dark place. Let's put it that way. I actually went back into education. I finished 3D animation and digital arts. I actually had quite a bit of fun. I enjoy making videos and drawing things. Who would have thought? I discovered modern board games. I discovered Board Game Geek. I found some people. I played Puerto Rico, and then I started making stuff inspired by all this. Then I discovered Playtest UK about 8 years ago, which is meetup.com/playtest, which you've got a link to over there. And I've made games such as In a Bind, now known as Yogi. This is the Korean version, and Yogi Guru. I've made DL Deck, Kitty Cataclysm. I'm working, I forgot about Dice and Ink, which is here. I've worked on games with my name of them have sold over 200,000 copies. I'm not saying that I am an expert, no one is, we are all learning together, but that is me. My recent things that I have been enjoying is hula hooping, making noises at cats, and walking whilst talking on the phone to lovely friends. And there's a bunch of my links. So firstly, I want to talk about how games are good. Now, games have a lot of power. Fundamentally, they can either improve a moment or even go so far as to improve the world. Now, to improve a moment, what I mean is that you can just provide a bit of diversion. If someone's having a really terrible day, then you can just bring them back into it and say, hey, for a wee bit, you're just not going to be distracted by all the terrible stuff that's going on. Let me transport you to this other world. Let's talk about trains, or let's talk about plants taking over the world, or cats, or just play an abstract word game, or let's pretend that we're transported to an ancient military time, or we are subsistence farmers who are struggling to even eat, which is somehow making us happier than, in our present day, which, if you think about it, yes, I just want to acknowledge life is not ideal, but we do still have some great things around us. We do still have some brilliant things, such as, paper, and the fact that we do have life around us, we are massively privileged. And games do bring people together. Games are exercising minds, exercising bodies. Games are teaching people, and games are shaping minds and bringing people towards the future. I'm aware that I'm preaching to the choir, but hopefully we are all agreed that games are good. Now, I would like to ask in the chat, I see a lot of faces. Who here has thoughts of making a game? Who here is not really thinking of making a game? I'd like some sort of poll. I mean, this talk, just to reiterate, I'm not going to tell you how best to make a game, although I am going to give you some tips. What I'm going to tell you is reasons why you might want to make a game. And think about it, because here we go. So, reasons to make a game. Intellectual curiosity. And yeah, we've got a few designers, Xate and Akido, yep, and Dark Realms. And no, I'm really happy that people are doing this, because why are you doing it? Look into yourself. Are you doing it just because you're curious about what will happen? Are you doing it as your own as your own diversion? Are you just wanting a game to exist? I think that's a perfectly valid reason. Sometimes you think, hey, I really want there to be a game for 20 people, you know, a good, like, a heavyweight Euro game that goes to a high player count, similar, you know, and see what happens. Maybe you want to make something, maybe you've got an idea in your mind, but it doesn't exist yet, and you just want it to exist. You want to make it yourself. Maybe you want to express love, and I've done this. So I don't think that they're watching, but I've got an ex-housemate, McCall, and I'm thinking of making a present for them. And I really hope McCall isn't watching this. So they enjoy Grabble, and I'm basically going to reskin my own game with pictures of McCall and stuff. And that's like an expression of love. And that is, yeah, something that you can do. I've got a friend who made a board game, just a simple roll and move game, just to say, hey, we're going to go through, and there's little miniatures of Buckfast and little in-jokes along the board, because it's all about sharing those moments. It's all about bringing people together. Of course, you can do it to earn money. I have done it to, I have been very privileged that Yogi, bloß nicht verknoten, my German isn't very good, is selling well enough that it pays my rent. There are a lot of people making money in this industry. It would be lying to say you can't earn money, but it is hard work. And there are other reasons as well, spreading joy. And I want to say, being published is not the only reason to make a game. That is the key takeaway that I want to say today, that there's so many reasons to make a game. Having your name on a box, sure. Self-expression. How many people just write poetry? Do you express yourself with poetry? Do you express yourself with singing or making up songs or something like that? And then do you ever, you know, just do it for the sake of sharing it with maybe a small group of people? Do you know what I mean? And yeah, Alan Outson says it's similar to the other creative acts, such as drawing. Yeah, exactly. It's all comes together. It's all, and whatever you're in love with, you can express that, even if it's just making a one-off thing for your family. Provoking thoughts, communicating a message. This is something that I was trying to do along with my co-designers, Sarah Jury and Tiz Creel, respectively, on challenging structures, which is a multiplayer LARP for about 40 players commissioned by King's College London, where we talked about the gender binary and how people can get together. This is something where you can sit down and think, how am I shaping the world? How am I expressing myself? Maybe I just want to make a game just for my family to play, to express my gender identity or my sexuality or express something that's going on in your life. You could use games as a kind of, as an alternative to journaling. Of course, you could also use it to teach. I've used games for the LDEC to teach my younger nieces how to read, how to write, how to decipher things. And hello, it is lovely to see you, Doc Cowie. Now, I would like to ask you, for those of you who are here thinking, I want to make a game, why do you want to make a game? Think about that in your own mind, because once you know what you want to do, you're more likely to actually get it done. Now, at this point, here's where, if I was going to be a bit more, skeptical, I might say, yeah, you know what, don't make a game. There's already too many games published. It's hard work. And all of that is true. There are too many games published. But even if it never gets published, that doesn't need to be the goal. That's, again, I keep coming back to this, hopefully, the key takeaway. As you make a game, you will learn analysis. You will improve your understanding of the scientific method. You try something, it doesn't quite work. You just iterate. You do it again. You make a small change. You ponder the ramifications. And so this is about not like kind of theory crafting, it sometimes gets called. Trying to imagine what would happen. Okay, what's the problem? How can I solve this? Well, I could change this rule. I could add this rule. I could take away that rule. What can you do? It helps you, like the problem solving skills, the analysis. These are skills that are going to last you through life. Working out why there is that problem, because once you work out why that problem exists, then boom. Now, we've got some people who've given reasons of why you make games. Aquasulus says, I like the challenge of making something interesting. I enjoy connecting with others through the design process and through play. Absolutely, connecting with others, you know, whether it's the players or the other designers. That's something I'll get to. Akido says, collaboration with others on subjects we are passionate about, a chance to have fun crafting with other people. And these are brilliant reasons. Another side benefit is empathy. Now with empathy, if you're making a game for other people to play, which I'm going to assume that you're not just making a solitaire game which is intended to be played by literally you and nobody else, you have to think about whether people will enjoy it or not. Now let's talk about when you're playtesting, the difficulty right now that we've got in today's world is that you can't observe body language so easily. You can ask people to do some sorts of table cam. I've got one myself, and I know that, you know, it was really helpful when I chatted to Xate and they had a table cam and went through puzzle. But being able to observe people, reading body language, again, this is a skill that will benefit you through life. Imagining how people would react. Now I've gotten to the point where I can think of a set of mechanisms, put them together and be like, okay, would people enjoy this part? Or would this part be boring? What is the interesting part? And of course, people are going to surprise you. That's why you playtest. But it's all about imagining how people would react. And then at the end, really listening to feedback. Now, when I say really listening, I mean you've got to be thinking not just about what they're saying, but about the reasons behind what they're saying. If someone's telling you, oh, you know, maybe this game could play up until 5 points rather than 7. Maybe what they're really telling you is that the game is just too long. And maybe dropping down to 5 points and you say, okay, the game ends when someone gets 5 points. Maybe that is the best answer. But maybe by dropping down to 5 points, you might kind of cut a little bit of the engine building, and then it's like, okay, you don't want to quite stop at that point. Maybe you want to go on a little bit longer. Maybe you want to, I don't know, get some more income coming into the game. Maybe you want to be able to do more things in a turn, whatever. And yeah, Millie said feedback can be hard to decipher and often means leaving your ego behind. 100%. It's about really listening to people, and it's all about, as I say, building up the empathy. Now, another reason that you might want to do it is just for the sake of another creative outlet. Again, who here, yeah, I'm actually interested to know, because I think that there's a lot of crossover between people who express themselves via one creative medium versus the people who express themselves via any other creative medium. Now, I believe that there are people who maybe do a little bit of poetry, and occasionally, maybe even once a month, it's like, oh, or once a year, it's like, oh, I love this, I want to express myself through a haiku or something like that. And it's, yeah, we've got great designers like Matthew Dunstan, hi Matt, and yeah, Alex and everyone. And so do you express yourselves through another medium? Because I do. I express myself through song, and maybe once every year I feel the need to write a bit of poetry. Even if you only feel the need to make a game once every 2, or even once in your life, it's like the thing of, you don't need to actually write a novel and be published to express yourself that way. Maybe you write a short story and you put it up on the internet and a few folk enjoy it. Maybe you make a game and then you put it up as a print and play and other people enjoy it. Maybe you have made that game and other people, you've managed to express yourself to your friends or your family or even the greater world. I mean, is that not an amazing thing? And so, yeah, again, games are unique because they are kind of a collaborative creation. Now, of course, if you are watching a film, if you fall asleep, then sure, the film will carry on, but there does need to be some involvement. There does need to be some deciphering of what is going on in the film in your mind. So to say that a film is not at all interactive is possibly reducing that part of film and books and comics and art, the parts of the appreciation that goes on in our own mind. But in a game, not only do we have the opinion and the realization and the conclusions that we come to in our own mind. Someone playing Seize the Power, one person might come to very different conclusions about prejudice and bigotry than someone else. So yeah, Seize the Power with Tiz is a game that I've been working on, now signed up by ITB. It's about discrimination, privilege, and subjugation of power. And so that is a game which is to kind of share a message, and it is kind of a creative outlet. But yeah, we have, people are going to get different opinions, but not only that, but every game is going to play out differently. So if a group of 5 people plays it once compared to a group of 5 people playing it, you know, next to them on 2 different tables, they will have potentially 2 different experiences. And even if the exact same person sits down to play the same game with a different group, the inputs that they are presented with is going to be incredibly different. I just wanted to broach that to kind of highlight the difference. Thank you, Matt. And Alan Oughton says, sadly, many people get discouraged to be creative from a young age. I always tell people who say they can't draw that they are wrong. I love that games can be an access to their creativity from many different routes. And that's absolutely true. I mean, this, why are we stopping people from being creative? And, you know, not everything has to be perfect. That's the thing. Not everything has to be something where we say, okay, this is going to be printed thousands of times or whatever. It can be just, hey, let's get something on a bit of paper. Let's get some cards together. Let's enjoy that moment. And even if it doesn't go anywhere, you have enjoyed that act of creation, hopefully. Now, let me move on to my penultimate reason, which is self-validation. Now, humans are fragile creatures. We all have fragile egos, and we all go through, well, I don't want to say we all, but at least I go through life saying, hey, am I good enough? You know, is there any points? And, you know, I've had a very good friend, again, Xates, you know, who says, you know, you're not just worth something because of what you've done, you're worth something just because you are, which is a lovely sentiment. But, you know, when you're feeling down, you don't feel that way. Now, yeah, thank you, Xates. And I want to say, yeah, that is true. And so, yes, absolutely. As long as you are kind, as long as you go through the world acting with kindness, you know, you are worth being you. You are worth kind of, you know, going through life. But at the same time, you know, there is the undeniable fact that we have all these brain weasels, like all these things going on. And we say, hey, this is something that we made. This is something that people have enjoyed. And maybe one day people will enjoy the game, even if you aren't there. Maybe your family enjoys the game, even when you're, you know, away on holiday for a bit. And that is such a fulfilling thing. You've brought joy to other people. The reminder that you have done something, that you can point at something. And even if it's, you know, a hand-drawn bits of cards, it's like, hey, this is a physical thing that I made. And I was, yeah, my hand-drawn bits of cards is on the other side of the room. And so, yeah, also I do want to say games are viral. This is something that Tim Fowers used to say a lot, and it's a really big thing in my mind. Look, if a game is being played by multiple people, if a game is good, you want to play it again. If a game is good enough, then once, let's say 4 people have played it, one of those people owns the game, maybe the other people, they now want to go off and play it with other people. Maybe one of them will buy the game. And so it goes off, it kind of has this kind of R rates, like, but it's a benevolent one, not like, oh, I'm sorry, I keep bringing it up. Not, it's obviously viral in a very good way. I mean, it's like spreading the joy, and maybe if it's, you know, arguably, if it's a game that's easy to get and it's got loads of people playing it and everyone then suddenly wants to buy their own copy, then this game is going to be viral exponentially. And yeah, that is it. I want, Mubot says, yeah, I mean, this is just chat rules, but like, this is what it's all about. It's kind of, yeah, be excellent. Final reason to make games, in my opinion, and if this is kind of not just a reason to make games. As I say, there's all the intellectual curiosity and everything. But here, I want to talk about making friends. Because when you meet someone and then you're like, hey, let's make a game together, when you're collaborating, oh, thank you, Michael. That's lovely for you to say. And when you see the people around you, you kind of start talking to your peers, your fellow designers. I wanted to talk about Friday daytime playtests, which sadly don't happen right now, but they are what we used to gather at Royal Festival Hall. We would play games for 1.5 hours and then have a break for half an hour, and then repeat that 3 times during the day. Before that, we would gather at 10 and then start playing at 11 sharp. Now, what this means is that you get to chat. You not only talk about the games that you make, but you also talk about, hey, how's your life going? And you start being friends with all these people. I mean, I don't know if I know Matthew Dunstan at a very intimate level. And, I'm sorry, Matt, it would, maybe I should start phoning you more often. I mean, our time zones aren't that different. But yeah, like, I know a little bit about Matt, and I've had a sense of who they are as a person. And when they come over, it's like, hey, this is a lovely person, and we're getting together, and then you share these moments. Sharing these moments, analysis is a real shared moment. No one truly knows the inner workings of Dunstan. Analysis. So I was talking to Chris yesterday, and Chris was saying, it's nice that we've got things that we can do together. We've got things that we can enjoy together. We can enjoy similar music and appreciate a good bass line. We can enjoy the explosive start of Screamadelica as, those guitars start playing. We can, have a brainstorm about something. We can take turns on hula hoops and smile together. We can play games together. And analysis, making things, working on things together, this is a real shared moment. And that first time, oh my gosh, back in those days, December, I had a big, what was it called, speed design thing, where we all got together at Badman Cafe at London, and then there were a bunch of us, and it was basically like speed dating, where instead of being, hey, do I want to date you? It was, hey, let's go around and spend 15 minutes with literally everyone else. So if there were 10 people, which I think there were approximately, it was like 10 times 15 minutes, however long that is. And we had a bit of a break at some points just to avoid complete brain burnout. And for those 15 minutes, it's like, okay, let's make something. Okay, let's start writing on cards. Let's get inspired together. And even though I might never carry on most of those games, those are real shared moments. There's an emotional high from getting something that works. There's an emotional low that you can work towards. I mean, is that not what life is? All about kind of making something of value, and hopefully you are making something of value. Now, yeah, I want to talk about the applications. I hope that I've, with these first two sections, firstly explained that A, games have value, B, there are many reasons why you might want to make a game, and C, that there are lots of side benefits, that it will make you a, this is a strong thing to say, and I hate saying this, but in some sense, it will make you a better person. I'm not saying that people who make games are better people than people who don't make games. I'm just saying that doing all sorts of things, pretty much doing anything, to be honest, going through any creative process, going through any sort of ordeal, in many ways makes you a better person. And there are many people who are far better people than me who have never made a game. And sure, there is a cost. There's an opportunity cost. If you make a game, that is the one downside, that it takes time, it takes energy. Maybe you've got a real job. Where do you fit that in? Where do you, how do you find the energy? What do you give up? Do you give up, okay, do you just give up watching a few TV shows, or are you giving up spending time with your family? Now, you need to think about this. And that is the side benefits. Now let's talk about the real world applications of making games. So, house rules, teaching, and presents. So basically, let's imagine firstly, house rules. Let's imagine you're playing a game and then you're like, okay, this game is quite good, we're enjoying it, but there's something about it that we don't quite like. Now, if you've analyzed game design, maybe you might understand, okay, this is why the game designer made this choice. Sometimes there's a thing of, okay, we want to have a little bit less information visible because you don't want to overload the players. And maybe you're thinking, well, you know what, myself and my friend, we quite like to be overloaded. So we are going to reveal the next card of the deck that will come out into the open market. And that's a perfectly legitimate house rule. It's a simple tweak that means that you get little bits more information. With house rule again, if you have a bunch of content, if you've got a game where throughout this time, throughout the past 4 months, we have been playing so many games. I don't know about you, but I've been playing games. There was a while when I was playing games about 4 or 5 times online a week, like literally about 5 nights a week. Now it's probably down to about once or twice a week. Like last week it was twice and this week it was once. It's probably going to stay about once or twice a week for a while. But anyway, the point is that when we play a game via this format, we have to tweak those games. And it's like, okay, how are we going to make this game adapt for the format under which we're playing it? How can we make a roll and write work? How can we make a roll and write that has a shared player board? How can we make a game that involves passing around things? How can we simplify, say anything? Because maybe the voting is a bit too complicated for, and by understanding design, you can, even if you never actually finish one of your own games, you can house rule your own games to make it a better fit for your group. I would like to talk about house rules for just a minute longer because I want to say, yeah, again, I'm interested to hear everyone else's opinion on house rules. I know some people feel, okay, I'm a little bit worried about making house rules. I know some people are like, you know, that designer's thoughts of stuff. Who am I but a lowly player? I should play this game exactly as it was designed. And some people just, on the other hand, they see the whole game as just, okay, here's a bunch of components and do with it what on earth you want. Now, I want to say that for me, when I personally make a game as a designer, there's two things. Alan says rules are there to be broken, which strong words. And Mully says, I don't think I understand game design enough to house rule without breaking the game. They're more like guidelines, says Kate. And Mifa says, I don't tend to house rule, but I'm much more willing to do so in RPGs because I feel like they're more freeform in the way that they're played. Yep, absolutely 100%. Okay, these are all legitimate reasons. And that's why maybe if you start making a game, even if you get halfway through, you understand going through that iteration cycle, having done that, trying something, see why it doesn't work. Let's do it again. Okay, let's try something completely different. See how that doesn't work. Okay, let's screw it into a ball and throw it away and now have something completely different. And now let's make some small tweaks. Now, by going through that process, you do get an understanding of game design. And so that can help you in doing house rules for a game. House rules, a game, even whatever game it is, a game is designed for a wide swathe of players. I do not ever, no, sorry, apart from the cribbage puppy game that I started making for an X and the Grabble reskin, which I'm going to make for McCall, but seriously, anyone who knows McCall, please don't tell them because it's going to be a lovely surprise, hopefully once I've actually finished making it. And anyway, the point is that designers of published games do not make a published game for a teeny tiny group. They make a published game needs to sell at least 1,000 copies to be like kind of something that you can actually make work. I know there's people like Jackson Pope who does like handcrafted games, but if you're doing that, that is really for the labor of the love. And oh my gosh, Jackson Pope will not. I don't think Jackson Pope will ever be able to pay themselves a reasonable hourly wage until they actually get to that point of mass production. Ultimately, what I'm trying to get to is exactly with what Alex says, Aquasulis. No designer can perfectly match your group's preferred experience, nor should they try to. So house rules can bring a game closer to that preference. That is 100% what I'm talking about. And you decide, because maybe you're playing Ticket to Ride US edition, and you're like, hey, I would quite like to play this 2 players, but I don't want to, no. And so someone says, Little Cogs, I like playing Ticket to Ride with double routes, even for 2 players, because I'm not competitive, and that lets me focus on route planning, which is a lovely thing. You could even house rule it, and maybe you want to say, hey, everything is a double route. How would that work? Maybe it probably wouldn't work well, because unless you're like, okay, we want to have true multiplayer solitaire, which would be a fine thing to do, I guess. But probably having some single routes brings a little bit of tension and hopefully isn't too mean for you. But honestly, if you wanted to make it true multiplayer solitaire, people talk about multiplayer solitaire like it's a bad thing. It is not a bad thing. Multiplayer solitaire is a game preference. There's games like Number 9, like Karuba, like Bingo, like my own Many Mickle Makes a Muckle, that are enjoyed for a reason. Because, and recently I've been enjoying Freemail and Micro Muckle. And sure, Mdisu, once you change your role, you are no longer playing the game the designer made, because the game is a mixture of components and rules. But why do you have to only limit yourself to the games that exist? I mean, it's almost like house rules are like the next level of, wow, I'm so into games. I understand my group's preferences so well that the games that exist are no longer enough for me. And I'm going to play, I don't know, house rule Kitty Cataclysm like James does for making it 6 players, which I don't think anyone should do, because then there's a bit too much downtime. But sure, if you want to do it, if it works for you, you do what works for you. Why restrict yourself to what started up? And thank you very much. Morphus. So, yeah. So, house rules. I encourage everyone, if you've got to a game and there's parts of it that you just don't like, whether it's that you feel like you don't have enough cards in your hand, you don't have enough options, maybe you feel like the game lasts a bit too long, or maybe it lasts a bit too short, why not try playing Settlers of Catan to 7 points? Tell everyone else, make sure you've played it the correct way first. Sorry, not the correct way, the official way. And then if we all agree, try it a different way. And then say, oh yeah, that was bad because of X, Y, and Z. And maybe that will be interesting to you. And then say, okay, this was, try it a bit longer if you want. And doing this sort of house rules, the other benefit is that it gives you a greater appreciation for what already exists. And now teaching. When you're teaching a game, people normally don't like teaching, but it's one of the things that you have to do. Now, by being a game designer, I'm just going to say you are going to be a better person at teaching games. You're going to over and over see how do people take on these games, and yeah, how do people learn it? What rules do people forget? What rules are complicated? Now, when you say, okay, this thing is a stumbling block, maybe I can remove it from my own game. If you say, okay, this part is super important and people always want to know that information up front, these are things that you will observe and you will gain a deeper understanding of by doing that. The other side of it is the other form of teaching, which I want to say teaching the next generation, teaching your niece, teaching your nephew, teaching any nibbling or sibling or child that you might have. I want to say that if you are trying to teach them to say certain words, how can you gamify that? Think about it. If you want to teach them to do certain actions, how can you turn that into a game? Because things do go into the mind so much more easily. And yeah, I think hopefully that all makes sense to everyone. Like, it's about spreading that information in a palatable way, whether it is learning to read or write, or learning to appreciate the world around them, whether it's learning to appreciate the gaining a vague sense of maybe a historical battle. It doesn't need to be the next generation. It could be people of your own age, or it could be teaching French, for example, which, yeah, by the way, Yogi, not this one, because this one's in German, but the French edition, which, no, that's Baltic. Anyway, there is oh, here. Yeah, so, no, that's Italian, I think. Anyway, but that's good for teaching languages. Sorry for all the thingy. So, presents. This is a great reason to teach games. To make games. It's to just give a present to someone. And I think that it kind of, if you draw a picture, if you write a song, if you write a poem, is that not a wonderful present? And in the same way, a game is like, just wow, this person made me this game and now I can keep enjoying it. That's a wonderful, wonderful present. Okay, so I hope now I've explained why game design is important and why it's something that everyone might want to do. And this is not at all anything to do with being published or making money. So let me talk about how. How do you make a game? First, you need to start. Now, it's really not important how you start, just that you get started and then you continue. So the point is that, people talk about theme versus mechanisms. That's a false dichotomy. There's so many other ways that you can start making a game. You can make a game based on a name, like Couple, one of the games for the L deck. It started off because my original games were Wibble, Grabble, Phrasal, Alphabetical, Fable. And then I was thinking, hey, maybe a game name could be Couple. What would that be all about? Okay, Couple would probably be about 2 players. And maybe they're, it's a cooperative game. Maybe you're trying to help each other make words. And then the game kind of carried on from that. Now you can make a game based on an experience. Okay, maybe in this game, I want people to be, all like, just, you can have a high picture point of view. You can think, okay, I want this to be an economic subversion of Inabind/Yogi. That can be a thing. You can say, okay, I want to make a game with this particular artwork. I'm being inspired by this art. I'm being inspired by this moment. Whatever you're inspired by, just try to do that and then carry on and explore what you do with it. I want to say one important thing as now, so just get started, make it, put it on paper, well, ponder how it would play, think about the rules, then make it on paper, make it as quickly as you can. A few quick tips. If you have a bunch of cards, if the game only needs 50 cards in a game, you don't even need to make 50. Maybe you only make 10. Maybe you only play like 1 or 2 turns. Maybe that's enough to tell you a little about how the game plays. If you don't need to put any graphics, obviously, just put symbols, make it the minimum viable product, not something that you would be proud of. Just do it something that go to your fellow designers. They will be people who are able to put up with terrible looking things. Another quick way to do it might be to start off, I should probably give a shout out to my own L deck, because that's all about people making up games for it. Now, once you've gotten started, please remember to instill hope into your players. You want to have other people having a way to sort of you want to, sorry, I just heard Millie. I think I'm aware of the time, don't worry. You want to instill hope. Negative feedback loops are things that take the balance away from the way it is to be. So like, for example, in the real world, tax is a negative feedback loop, whereas the fact that once you've got more money, it's easier to make more money and so forth, that is a positive feedback loop. In a game, you want to have as many negative feedback loops as possible. You want to have something like, okay, something like in Risk, where people gang up on the person who's in the lead. That's kind of putting it into the hands of the players. Maybe you have something like Wibble, where when you're ahead, it becomes harder for you. Maybe it's something like, okay, when you have more and more bits of your engine, there's more bits to deal with. Make sure the game finishes. Just so many games do not do this. It's really annoys me. Make sure the game finishes, and make sure the game is mathematically destined to finish in the amount of time that is suitable for the game. If there's a game that's fun when it's 20 minutes, but sometimes it goes on for an hour, I mean, that's potentially a problem. I want to say simplify, simplify, simplify. I just said that 3 times because, yeah, it's it. Think about the audience. This builds into the creativity, about the empathy. Think about what they want. Do they want a simple game? Do they want a complex game? Build for them. Prioritize. What kind of game is this? You can't have everything in your game, but you can have, some good things. You want to think, what is the best part of your game? You want to sort of maximize that, and you want to incentivize people to engage with that. Now, Gil Hoover has this amazing quote, incentivize interesting behavior. Props to Gil Hoover, brilliant person. They'll be on speaking later on this weekend. Now, what that means is that if there's something that's fun to do, and it's going to be fun for other people when it's done, then you want to give points to that action. If there's something that's, if there's a method of playing that's clearly superior, that's not a problem, unless that clearly superior method is, not fun, in which case you want to change the scoring structure, because basically games are a method of incentives. Finally, I want to do a reality check for those people who do want to go into published games. Marketing is important. Actually, marketing is more important than the quality of the game, I would say. Now, to wrap up, I think I might have time for like one question, and if there's like other people who want to chat, I could go over onto my own stream page if people wanted to have some sort of thing. I was told to remind people that folks can earn a special badge for watching the stream. And yeah, thank you everyone. And let me know if you've got any questions. Alan Alton asks, should it be positive feedback rather than negative feedback? Negative feedback usually moves things back to the status quo rather than pushing the boundaries towards something new. No. So if you've got a disparity in things, positive feedback loop would increase the disparity. Negative feedback would bring things closer together. For a game, you want to have a tight game where people are generally close together. And so that's why you want a negative feedback loop. Scientifically speaking, those are the terms. You could also think of it as slippery slope or a catch-up mechanism, although that doesn't quite get into it. Any good resources to find any info to get into game design? And the best possible video, I will look it up, is Mark Rosewater, 20 lessons in 20 years. That is the best video. I mean, you don't need to watch it this weekend because it's not live. It'll still be exactly the same if you watch it later. But for you, Akido, that is the link that I'm sharing. Huguenot, thank you very much. 4D games, how best to market a game? That would be a totally separate conversation. I'm not going to get into that. Thanks, Fuzzy Logic. Thank you, Mdesu. And yeah, thank you, everyone. It has been lovely to have you. And I think that it is time for me to wrap up. And so I'm looking forward to doing some stuff. I'm going to just do a quick shout out to the things that I'm doing the rest of this weekend, mainly on twitch.tv/stuffbybez. If you want to check it out, it'll be there. And my links are like so. And for now, bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Well, there's someone else up to come after this, but this is the end of my bit of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now, I mean, I say it's time to go, but it's not really. I mean, bye, 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 bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. And the rest of the song doesn't make any sense, given that the UK Games Expo stream's going on. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. Enjoy UK Games Expo. And I think that Millie's going to cut me off now.
Thank you very much, Bez. Everybody have a wonderful afternoon. Do check out Bez's channel. We've posted links in the chat. We're going to go now so that Aconite Books can take over and talk about turning books into board games. And have a wonderful day, Bez. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.